Hey, so my name is TJ. I'm a person in long-term recovery, and for me that means I haven't had a drink or drug since August 9th, 2016. I'm here hosting the Recovery Matters podcast today, and I have a good friend of mine on, Jake.
What's up, TJ? Thanks for having me. My name is Jake. I'm a person in long-term recovery as well. 9 years, and 9 of the best years of my life, easily. Took a while to get here. Where I first found recovery, I guess, was CBH.
Okay.
Yep.
What was that like?
It was everything I needed. It was perfect.
I love it.
I fought it for a long time. You know, my idea of what recovery would be like best case scenario would be pretty mediocre for a long time, like real low event life, because I had this association still. It's very unreasonable and illogical looking back on it, but like I did have the belief that a lot of the good times were, you know, partying and this and that, and there's this sort of glamorous illusion that I, you know, really tried to maintain through denial. I mean, the party, if that's what it was over for a long time by the time I was ready to get help. But anyway, I ended up in a lot of pain. I went through this period of time where I was like pretty depressed, and I would get I would get fired or arrested every 6 months like clockwork.
Yep.
And it happened on the same day at one point. And that day I actually felt like a kind of a sense of relief, because I was trying to really like hide this from my support system. So, you know, having both of these events happen at the same time, and for what I was I was caught with possession of some narcotics, and that was going to be, you know, written down on some documents that would be completely visible to my support system, my family, mom and dad.
Yep.
Anyway, I knew, you know, at this point they were going to ask me to leave their house, and, you know, I didn't want to be homeless, and I didn't have a plan, and it was isolated from like anybody where I could theoretically couch surf.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, for whatever reason in that moment, I kind of felt like a little bit of a calm sense of relief, which sort of stood out, but leaned into it just enough. Called up a friend of mine who had gotten sober while we were in high school.
Okay.
Called her up. First time I've talked to her in a while, tell her my situation. She says, what do you have no job, no money, no insurance? Perfect. Call up CVH. So that's what I did. I said, hey, what's up? I got no job, no money, no insurance. They said, all right, great. Yeah, we actually, you know, we've got a bed. Of course, wasn't like immediate, but it was the next couple of days. I had done, you know, some various sales jobs. So, you know, I see that as relatively similar. Like, you have to really advocate for yourself, and you're using a phone. You got to call somebody and call them repeatedly until they have a bed for you. So that's what I did. It didn't take too long. I was pretty good at advocating for myself, so I wasn't deterred by the 2-week waiting list or whatever the usual message is.
Yep.
So I got a bed over there, and a couple days later, I went up there. Now, at the time, things had gotten so bad for me that my lungs didn't work really.
Okay.
I was walking around with, so leading up to that point, I would go to the emergency department with trouble breathing once every like 2 months, roughly. And I would get a bunch of nebulizers, breathing treatments, and I'd walk in my O2 sat, you know, the thing they put on your finger.
Yes.
Is your pulse ox. It gives you your pulse and the level of oxygen saturation in your blood. Mm-hmm. Mine was very low. I'm supposed to be around 100. Mine was like low 90s, which is, you know, was very problematic. I mean, I would have to get out of bed really slowly in the morning and make sure that I was staying ahead of my breathing and all of these really unmanageable things.
What was causing that?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure it had something to do with some of the things I was smoking.
Okay.
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, when that went away, my breathing got a lot better. So I'm just going to say there was a very close linkage there.
Yes.
So anyway, I I was using these over-the-counter nebulizers. I was using these over-the-counter nebulizers, and it's this little device that almost looks like one of those 2015, 16 vapes, the original big vapes that you hold on to.
Yep.
Kind of looks like that, but you pour some sort of medicine, it's liquid, into the top of it. It has an atomizer in it, and you inhale this stuff. And it would sort of help. It would help open up my airwaves. But you can't have those at CBH, and I didn't have a prescription for it. So when they're looking through my stuff and they find this device and they don't know what it is and they're asking me what it is, and I'm in rough shape. And all I want to do is go to bed. The show's over. I'm ready to this is a detox. You said you had a bed for me. Please tell me where this bed is because I want to get in it. So, they find this thing and they come and they say, hey, Jake, what is this? So I tell them what it is. And okay, that's cool. You can't have it. We don't know what it is. All right. I tell them right then and there. Well, that's fine. I have no problem with that, but I am going to end up with some trouble breathing. So that night I wake up and I usually this would happen and I would wake up and I would use a little bit, but now you're in detox, so you can't do that. So I wake up and I'm having a lot of trouble breathing, and I'm starting to worry about that because I don't have anything to alleviate that. And I'm in a very unfamiliar place. I've been sleeping. I don't know anybody. And so I start to panic a little bit. And that, when you're having trouble breathing, is not a good combination.
Yes.
So not to be dramatic, but I wanted to go get help and do it quickly. But I couldn't quite get to my feet right away. So I basically shuffle across the floor to the door of this room. And then I'm sharing a room with 3 other guys. So there's 4 guys in this room. There's plenty of space. It wasn't cramped or anything, but, hospital cots. And so I crawl out of my cot. I crawl to the end of the room.
On all fours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I shuffled across. Yeah, that's what I did, on all fours. And so I make my way out of the room, and I can see down the hallway there's a nurse's station. And it's to my right, and there's nothing between, me on the ground and the nurse's station. And it's staffed 24/7, so somebody's there. And they're looking at me, and they see, just another guy, he's maybe a bit of a knucklehead, you know how we do. We like to push the envelope a little bit. So now I'm sitting there up against the wall. And this woman, she sees me and she says something. She asks me what I'm doing. She tells me the rules, something like that.
Yeah.
So I can't respond. I can't communicate. I don't have, after a little while, she says, are you having an asthma attack? And I thumbs up. Yeah, yes. Basically, we were able to communicate on that level with some gestures. She asked the right question. So, thankfully, it's a hospital. It's Connecticut Valley Hospital. So she has a son that struggles with asthma. She was able to recognize the similarities there and make some calls, and they get somebody up there with a breathing treatment.
Nice.
That was the last breathing treatment I ever had. I didn't need it again. They ordered me, so that was that night. I get there maybe around noon, 11. I probably go to sleep, and I wake up. I don't know what time during the night this was, but it was pretty late, and they were able to get this for me, and then give me that breathing treatment, and eventually we were able to talk about what we might do going forward. So they prescribed me a rescue inhaler, and also I think maybe a prednisone inhaler. I don't know, a steroidal inhaler that's more for long-term treatment. So they prescribed me these things, and I would get them at MedPass. So MedPass, you're getting whatever meds you need for your detox, but also anything else. So I was getting my inhaler at that point as well. And that was the last breathing treatment I ever had. So I do the detox. I'm in there. I'm detoxing from opiates, and I'm refusing meds. I had some sort of I wasn't ready for recovery, and I was trying to keep some people off my back. So I said, yeah, sure, I'll try Suboxone.
Okay.
But I would do that, and I would flush it out of my system when I wanted to use, and I would use for a little bit, and then I would, take a Suboxone and like a whole lot of water before my next appointment, and so that's what I did. So I had this. I don't know, for whatever reason, when I was there in Detox at CVH the first time, I didn't want to take any Suboxone or anything. So I just refused meds, cold turkey. And
you did the good old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I went old school. And I slept. I mentioned I had like three other guys I was sharing the room with. I wouldn't get up. I would not get up. I just stayed in that bed for as long as possible. I mean, they even I was such a pain that they brought the vital machine to me.
Nice.
Because I'm like, this is your problem. I don't need to get up right now so that you can make sure that I'm medically okay. No, you bring that thing to me. So that's what they did. At shift change, they would bring it over to me. Well, eventually, like a couple days go by, and I start to feel like, whatever, I need to get up. So I do, and my roommates are like, oh, he's up, he's alive. Dude, tell me about it. Like, what have you been through? You've been on such a long run. I'm like, I don't think I'm any worse off than anybody else, but it's just what I chose to do. So I have some journals from that time too.
Wow.
Crazy. Like nuts things. Nothing like my plan at that time. This is sort of, I don't know where these journals are. I don't know if they exist today, but I remember what I wrote down in them. And my plan at that time was I was going to go learn how to drink wine. That was the plan for recovery moving forward from that point in Detox. Like I'm still not committed to recovery. Like I want to do this detox, get the people off my back, go back to mom and dad's house, start working a job, stop blowing all my money on, other fun things, and learn how to just drink wine. And that could be pretty cool. That could be all right. I could do that. That's what I thought I would do. Well, the team there and my family like held some boundaries, and needless to say, that's not how it went. I went to their residential program after
Nice.
that. After about a week, I stepped down into their res program, and it was great. I mean, it had all the evidence-based practice. It had a lot of opportunity for me to learn the concepts of like some clinical concepts, some relapse prevention ideas, and
Recovery
learn about
supports.
recovery. Yeah. Get exposure to peer support. I mean, there would be 12-step meetings brought in most nights, and just a very busy schedule of recovery. Plus, you go to the pool like once or twice a month, which was cool. I mean, it was really. I mean, I appreciated that. It was really nice to be in the pool. And you could go to their gym.
Okay.
I was like 3 or 4 times a week. So that's where I started to, test out the lungs. I got on the treadmill. I'm like, all right, walk. Cool. Because I couldn't even do a brisk walk.
Yep.
For the last like year of my using. And for me, that's a problem. Like I love to be active. That's a big part of the joy of my entire life. Being active, being outside, playing sports, being in the water, doing all kinds of things. Love it. And I maintained some ability to do that, but it was really compromised. And that's sort of indicative of the boundaries that I was willing to cross in my use. Like I take something that's super important to me. It's heavily involved in my own self-image. It's heavily involved in like the joy of my life. And I'm willing to run that to the point where I have to be like very careful about how I do that, because I really just still want to use. Like I'm terrified to not have that in my life at that point. So I was in CVH's res. I was learning recovery. I was learning like CBT, DBT.
Yep.
12-step. Anger management, communication skills, all of these things. But I was also like getting to exercise a little bit, and it felt awesome.
Okay.
It felt so good. I would sign up every chance I got to go down there, and we had a little crew. We got to like bond a little bit down there. Matter of fact, I had a little altercation with one of the guys on the unit over the phone.
Nice.
Yeah. I was like week 1. I wanted to call my girlfriend and my family and whatever, and so did he, and we had a disagreement about whose turn it was, who should rightfully be on that phone right now, and we didn't handle it like gentlemen. So there was like a little moment there where maybe both of us were going to be out the door, but we were able to de-escalate that situation with the help of the staff, and he and I kind of like became gym buddies over the week. Like
nice.
Like week 1 where there's a fight, week 2 we're like distant, we're not quite so lovey-dovey, but by week 3, 4, like we were working on the same exercises and stuff together. And I think like that's those are those like teachable moments. Those are the little things. It's just an early example of conflict resolution in a healthy way, in a controlled environment. And for whatever it was, it's now a good memory.
Are you ready to make a difference in the lives of others? If so, then you should consider becoming a recovery coach. Recovery coaches are trained to help people in recovery, seeking recovery, or struggling with addiction. They provide support, guidance, and resources to help people on their recovery journey. CCAR Training is the leading provider of recovery coach training programs. Our programs are designed to teach you the skills and knowledge, what we call the science, while giving you an understanding of your own art needed to be a successful recovery coach. We offer a variety of training options, most offered online. If you're interested in becoming a recovery coach or just learning more, I encourage you to visit our website or contact us today. We would be happy to answer any questions you have and help you get started on your journey to becoming a recovery coach. We hope you'll visit us at www.addictionrecoverytraining.org to learn more.
I was laughing really hard because I share like a very similar story around that, where this is 8 years ago, so they didn't have like fentanyl tests yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I get dragged to Detox. They pull me in and I pee dirt. So I just used, like, before I left the house and had been on a 2-week run, really bad, cocaine, heroin, Xanax, alcohol, weed, everything that I could, anything and everything. Get the Detox. They give you a urine. I pee dirty for everything but opiates.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, we know you're high. We know you use opiates, but you're clean.
Yeah.
We'll hold you and detox you, but no methadone, no Suboxone.
Ooh.
I'm like, no, I'm straight. I'm out of here. Right? I turn around. I'm like, yo, the guys that were with me are like, hey, listen, we're leaving without you. So you can stay, or you could walk home from Middletown to Manchester. Do the math in my head, it's about 39 miles, right? Give or take. Even if I gave it a slight jog, it's probably going to take 2 days.
Yeah. 2 days with no cash and...
Yep. And the shoes on my feet.
Yep.
And whatever else I can carry.
Challenging navigation home.
Yep. So I stayed,
okay.
Right? And I had that same mindset, and I was sitting in Detox, and I was sick as a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a couple of clonidines, like high blood pressure medication. I won't get out of bed, or I'll slump over in a chair, and people talk to me, and I was pissed.
Mm-hmm.
My roommate left and threw a fit and like got in a physical altercation. I didn't even get out of bed, right? Like all that. And I was like, yo, I will never do cocaine or heroin ever again for my entire life. But I'm going to work this thing hard enough that everybody believes it. And when they take their eyes off of me, I'm going to drink and smoke weed. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you could pull that off, maybe that's not the worst thing in the world if you could pull it off.
But
I tried that for a long time, and it never worked.
Right?
Yeah, it only ever got worse.
You just pick up where you left off, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, I remember did some time in prison. I got out, and I was like, it was the first time I was going to go out and drink. and I went out. I had a couple of drinks. I look over to the bar. I see my old buddy that I used to do coke with. He gives me the look. We go to the bathroom, sniff a couple of lines. Boom. 2 shots of Ruppelman, 2 lines of coke. And I'm like, all right, listen, like, I'm on parole. I got to be home before 9. So if I'm going to make it to Hartford and back, like, I got to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I want to do. I want to do heroin.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, I really identify with a lot of your story, and I could really make that connection with you. What was it like when you got out of treatment? So you do 45 days, right? You do the 45-day program.
Yeah, 45 great days. And like I mentioned that my initial plan was to, get out after detox, learn how to drink like a gentleman.
Yep.
My mind changed and, continued to change over those 45 days. I had agreed to do a sober living. Nice. Yep. Down in on the shoreline in Madison.
Okay.
Yep.
It's got some good recovery down there.
Yeah, great recovery. It was going all right. I mean, that wasn't the last time I ended up going to treatment. I had a pretty similar experience to you. I mean, the next time that I went back to CBH for detox, but I wanted to try something else. So I called up on the payphone in the detox. I called up McDonough House in Danbury.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I feel better. I know you guys don't do discharges on the weekends. It is Friday. Like, I need this to happen today. So I'm not waiting for the case manager to call. I have a phone, and I wrote down their number. On the Demas website, it's got all the numbers.
Yep.
So I had them all written down. So I call them up, and I had heard that, it was a nice small program. So I call them up, and, I do a screening. I'm like, let's do the screening over the phone. I'll have my stuff faxed over to you. Anyway, same deal. They're like, you didn't test positive for opiates. Don't know what to make of that. I'm like, me neither, but that's...
but I'm using dope.
yeah, that's why we're here, though.
Yeah.
I don't want to... We don't need to talk about that. I'm trying to get better. So anyway, at CVH, I went to a sober living and I started checking all the boxes, right? Because people come in at night, 12-step H&I meetings, and they're like super happy, like, oh, my life's beyond my wildest dreams. How did you do it? Well, I went to meetings. I got a sponsor. I did the steps. I called another alcoholic. I prayed. That's pretty much what I did. So I'm like, okay, you're telling me that if I want to feel better, that this is all I have to do? I got to do these. So I start going through the motions, checking the boxes. Somebody tells me, you got to go to the 7:30 a.m. meeting on the green. So I start going to the 7:30 a.m. meeting on the green. I had somebody suggest that I get a temporary sponsor, and not just the idea of one, but they said, work with this guy. So I started working with that guy. Great guy. Worked with him for many years. But I wasn't, in my opinion, I wasn't like owning my own recovery. I was just checking the boxes. And, really what happened is like, I think there was a pretty good foundation and framework laid. I learned a lot and I got a lot out of that experience, but I wasn't happy.
Okay. No. Then what happened?
Well, all right. So, that shoreline, I wanted to have fun. I wasn't having fun. I wanted to do my thing and have a good time. And I was not doing that. And I also, I didn't say that to anybody. Like any of the people who were all like by and large, if there was, and this isn't an exaggeration, if there was 50 people there every morning, 5 of them were close to my age and they were more well established and they had more responsibilities than I did. I was 26 or 7 or something. I don't even remember. But they had more responsibilities than I did. So I had a lot of like time to myself to get a job I didn't like and go to meetings I didn't like. And, all I want to do is I want to go to the gym and the beach. And then I want to hang out with some people at night.
Yep.
And I'll do all this other stuff too, because that's what they said would help me find happiness and live, happy, joyous, free. So I'm checking the boxes. I'm doing the steps to the best of my ability, of course, as they say. And eventually that same person that I called and said, hey, I need to go to detox, she had been living in Maryland and was moving up to Mass. So she was passing through basically and staying there in our hometown for a week or so. So I don't remember. And she comes into this meeting, and afterwards she's like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. Like, how do you like it? And I finally got honest. I said, I hate it. This is bad. I don't like it.
I'm miserable.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. I'm not really feeling this. So she says, all right, well, I know this young people's meeting. It's like 100 plus 20-somethings. And they're all at this meeting on Friday night. Like, it's tonight. Why don't you come? And I think she's lying to me because I can't imagine that this exists. My concept of recovery still at that point was like I'm a legacy. Like my family is, many of them are in recovery. So that's sort of what I know.
Yep.
And like periodically they would try to help me when I wasn't ready. And then, I say, I do a little air quote, help me,
Yeah.
they were trying to help me. They were like best intentions,
Yep.
Not knocking them, but I wasn't ready to receive that message. So it was sort of like a turn off a little bit. So anyway, my concept, I didn't think it was possible that there could be like 120 somethings in New Haven on a Friday night trying to get sober and have fun. I thought that was a myth, but I was willing to go check it out, because I trust this person. So I go there and like, oh my God, this really exists. And now there's some people that I might be able to have similar interests and hang out with, and we could have a little fun. And, that's sort of what started to happen, but I still wasn't really honest with them. I started hanging out, and it was the summer. At the end of the summer, there's this retreat, and they say, Jake, you want to come on this retreat? I said, that's what we're doing this weekend? All right, let's go. So we go to this retreat, and it's like AA all day long and chilling all night long. And like, I had a good time. I still wasn't really feeling I wasn't feeling the magic of recovery yet. I did like hanging out, but I wasn't feeling the magic of recovery. So Sunday morning rolls around, it's time to go home. And all the girls are like, I feel spiritually hungover. Like a few of them literally said those words. I feel spiritually hungover, and they're like having a genuinely good time, and I think they mean that for real. And I didn't feel like that, so I was like, ugh, I don't know about this whole thing. I had a coffee commitment on Fridays for that Shoreline meeting, and I was at a friend's house. There's a friend who was hosting a regular recovery get-together Thursday night football. So I'm at his house, Thursday night football. This person recently was my best man at our wedding. So he has this party on Thursday nights, and we're watching Thursday night football, and I had made the decision that tomorrow morning after the coffee commitment, I'm going to get high. And then Sunday, I'm going to get high from Friday to Sunday. No one has to know. I'm just going to take a little break. And that's what I did, And there was this guy at these morning meetings who he was a little slower with the newcomer, which I thought was kind of cool for some reason. And he's like, yeah, Jake, how are you? How you doing? I'm good. I've seen you coming around now. It's like 9 months. That's really good. How do you feel? What did I say? I said, I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm checking all the boxes. I got a sponsor. I'm doing the steps. I'm going to the meetings, blah, 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 blah. And I feel pretty good. I was high 2 hours later, I wasn't honest. So that was the missing thing for me. I spent a little more time on a run, and I didn't get honest with anybody really. I was afraid of being the weak link in the chain. If they say the recovery community is a chain, I was afraid of being the weak link, to admit that I wasn't really experiencing it in a positive way. Because they say things like stick with the winners. Some people say stuff like that.
Yes.
You ever heard that?
Yes. Yeah, or stick in the middle of the pack because everybody else gets picked off around the edges.
Yeah, you hear some stuff like that.
Either you're in AA or you're around AA. And I never met anybody around AA that stays sober.
Yeah, I didn't hear that one, but I was around AA. I wasn't really in recovery. I was not being authentic in the way that I was experiencing it. And that was a big problem for me, as it turns out, because I went on another little run, couple months, same thing sort of happened, like time to go back to treatment. So that's when I, back to CVH and off to McDonough House, and I do 30 days there, and I'm going to go back to a sober living in New Haven now.
Okay.
This time I'm going to keep it real.
I am now willing to tell everybody the truth and exactly what's going on with me.
You ask me, how's it going, Jake? I say it sucks if it sucks. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And that's what I did. And it actually was like that was the authentic foundation. I was willing to show up to, to things that were scary for me. So I'm in this sober living now, and I got a bike, and that same person says, well, how's it going this time? Oh, and by the way, like those people that I had met that I started to hang out with, like the guy who would eventually become best man.
Yep.
They didn't turn their back on me. They actually came to pick me up from the sober house that I was getting tossed out of, and drove me up to CVH.
They embraced you.
Yeah, they did. They didn't. My illogical fear, or my very real fear at that time, that I would be shunned or would be outcast or I was the weak link, I was wrong. That didn't happen. They supported me. So they showed up and they encouraged me to do the right thing. And they were there to welcome me back when I was ready to be back. And so it was the same deal, except, this time it was like, how's it going, Jake? I'm depressed. I'm scared. I don't like people. We have a Wednesday night men's meeting. There's about 100 men that I don't want to talk to any of them, and they're in the first floor of our house right now. I have to be at this meeting. I'm not really feeling it. She says, great. Are you working? No. All right, our friend Ryan's needs some help at this new restaurant. I'm going to pick you up, and you're going to go interview with Ryan. Ryan says, can I count on you to show up? And I say, I don't know. Maybe. He says, fair enough. I'll give you the opportunity. Training starts on this day. Show up there. And so it was at this bar restaurant in New Haven. And then, maybe that's not the best place to be. But it really worked for me, I got to say.
Yes.
Because I wanted to socialize, and I had to figure out how to show up to work, but also as a requirement, be very social with all these people that I don't know that are just living their life. And it was a crash course. I had to learn how to talk and socialize with people in various different settings. I could do the AA socialization. I could do the recovery socialization when there's a lot of common ground. It's a little easier. But this was just whoever walked in the door. And my job was literally to make them feel welcome, comfortable, happy, and keep them in the seats for as long as they should be and get them out when they should be gone, the restaurant business. So it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed that. Was when I started to show up for life, whatever it was. And I remember early on, I rode that bike from the sober house over to downtown to pick up my $15 of tips from the night before, bussing at the soft opening party. And I got a chewing tobacco, I got a tin of tobacco and a burrito from a food truck, and I felt really free in that moment. Yep. I wasn't hiding anything. Some good things were happening. I was reliable for a little bit, and I felt like I had learned something, how to be honest with people, and that if you aren't perfect, not everyone's just going to disappear from your life. And I had I remember that afternoon, and weather was great. It was the summer, and things were just good. It was simple, and it was joy, and I felt all right, from here, things might not be as bad as I was convinced they would be.
Yes.
In recovery. And it was
a whole different outlook. Yeah, that so my first job in recovery was washing dishes at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
I was in IOP, and long story short, I was I'm looking for a job, and da-da-da-da-da. And this lady was hey, come and interview. I'm a bartender, blah, blah, blah. We need busboys, we need dishwashers. Can I have your number? So all of a sudden I get a text from this guy, and he's yo, come on in. And pull up, And basically, I'm like 3 minutes in conversation, and he's like, all right, I guess you seem like a good fit. Tell me about yourself. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And he's like, no, dude, you're good. Just tell me about yourself. I'm like, I'm a convicted felon. I have a high school education. I'm about 45 days sober, but I promise if you give me this job, I'll work my ass off for you, and I'll be here every day on time. He's like, I guess you're hired.
Yeah, that last part?
Yeah.
To be here every day on time? All right.
Boom. You enter real life, right? And like, I made $15 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And life was so simple. I worked 6 hours a day, 5 days a week, 30 hours a week. $350 a week, give or take. Barely enough to, keep an old truck and car insurance on the road. And like, life was so simple and easy.
Mm-hmm.
That first paycheck, it's like I bought a pack of smokes. I'm like, cigarettes. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. And like now things are more complicated.
Yes.
And I'm super grateful to be able to experience all of that stuff. It looked pretty distant and unlikely for a while. But it is more complicated. Like that like simple, pure early recovery joy where you're like confident and the plate's not like too full now. And it's nice. It's a nice spot to be in.
Absolutely. Tell me about life today.
Life today is great. It's phenomenal. I mean, very grateful to have, great relationships with my family, a good network of friends, good relationships with people, regardless of whether or not it's like based on recovery or based on just, other relationships, work relationships, long-time friendships. Got married this year.
Congratulations.
That was a big one. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. That took a lot of work. Like I was afraid to be vulnerable and be in a relationship, afraid of whatever it was. Like I wasn't ready for that in early recovery. And I had to kind of like I had to get right with myself first and like do more of the more like deep self work.
Yep.
In recovery. Before I was really ready to like love myself and bring something positive to build a relationship upon.
Absolutely.
And I was working on that with a therapist. That was an intention that I had set and, working on some skills to get to that point. So I met my now wife one night while she was out with some friends. She was a few doors down. I was outside on a break, and I saw this group of people, and I was like, I got to go talk to her.
Yep.
So that's a whole nother story, but...
So you beelined it towards her.
I did. I was crazy. I was really very impulsive.
You're like, hey, this is crazy, but...
Yeah, no, that's what I did. I walked over to them, and I said, hey, when you guys are done over here, why don't you come on down the street? So they did. And yeah, we got to chatting, and we started dating, and never looked back. It's
awesome.
Great. So we bought a house together. We lived in a couple different apartments before that. But that's, my ability to be able to be a partner and like bring something of strength and authenticity to a relationship is definitely related to the process of recovery, getting honest, being, knowing myself really. Because, right, like I had spent, since I was like 15, 16, I had spent almost every single one of those days putting something into my body that would alter the way that I felt. And then also, as the consequences of that started to get worse, the way that I would have to rationalize that internally had to get better.
Yep.
So I built up this whole story about, these things that I needed to convince myself were true in order to cling to this coping mechanism for me. And I found out pretty quickly that like I didn't actually know who me was. Once that stuff is gone and I don't have to like keep up this charade and keep telling myself the story, like, oh man, they talk about isolation in recovery. And like, yeah, I was physically isolated from a lot of people and positive relationships, but I also was like emotionally isolated from myself. So finding myself in that position was like a little overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
But you show up for that too. Like you got to work through it to get to the other side, basically.
Yeah, you had to find identity in recovery.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and so, that's a little bit. I mean, I work in the space of recovery. I work for Mountainside, building partnerships with other community organizations and people that come in contact with folks that need help. And so I kind of try to identify ways in which we can eliminate gaps in care and streamline continuums of care to make sure that we're finding. If people need help, we know how to help them.
Absolutely. Do you feel fulfilled in your life today?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say it's easier now to get sucked into the minutia and locked on to like whatever it is that is a challenge on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Like you and I have known each other for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
What's changed for you in that time?
Literally everything, right? You
got a couple more responsibilities these days,
to say the least. I mean, I got about 3 weeks to my wedding.
Okay.
So
I didn't even know that. That's awesome. And really stressful.
Like I say, I hear a lot of people talk about getting married. It's like, yo, if you could survive actually getting married, you'll be fine staying married. Because it's like, hey, like I want to be together forever. Let's involve God and the government in our relationship. And then like, let's take and fill a room full of people we love and then tell them we love each other and we want to be together forever. And this day has to be perfect, not only for you two, but for everybody else involved.
Yeah.
Right? Dog, big dog guy, father, right? It's a lot more simple than washing dishes at a bar and hitting a couple of meetings.
Oh, for sure. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's easier for all these things that like I care very much about to, it's easier to lose sight in the day to day.
Yes.
How amazing that, all of this stuff is. And like I said a little while ago, like it seemed very distant and unlikely.
Yes.
Walking through it, like it is easier to take it for granted now. Like, and that's when I think of like how happy I felt to be like, feel like true freedom and ride my bike down the street to get my $15. That's literally everything that I had earned.
Yeah.
It's a little different today. Am I fulfilled by that? Yeah, absolutely. But I do have to be mindful to cue into that gratitude and like, when it is challenging, gotta make sure that I remember like.
Yes. I would have nothing in my life today if it wasn't for recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have no evidence to suggest that going back would be the right thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Jude, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. You're awesome too, man.